welcome back to another edition of The Better Contractor. Today, as always, I am joined by my awesome co host, Travis. How are you, man?
Fantastic. Good to see you, Brent.
Hey. So, some of you know him as a quote master, so I'm sure he's got some stuff in queue here, right? You better.
It's got to organically come out, otherwise it seems rehearsed.
I am impressed by what you have memorized.
I am too. It's those things that I don't know. I was always we've talked about this before, but I was always into quotes and like I like snippets, and it definitely either can help define something that maybe is more abstract, something that you do, or it gives color to it, or it shapes your like. Ooh, I've never thought about it like that before, and so I've always loved quotes.
It's a good nugget to take away from something. That's why I like it. It's usually a one sentence, easy to remember, said in a memorable way.
They've been impactful throughout my life, and I think I told you before that I used to keep them digitally on my phone. Less so these days, but I started putting them into like a little journal for the boys. But it legitimately is something that I have throughout my life looked at, and maybe
Yeah,
that's part of where they're back in the subconscious bouncing around, and every now and then they just come out. So we'll see what surfaces on this one.
yeah. No, I like it. It works good for the podcast. So today we're going to talk a little bit about making your business stand out from the competition. So kind of a broad topic, but if you think about business and what makes business successful, it kind of is that. Like if you don't stand out, especially in 2024, it's tough immediately. If you're not standing out online, if you don't stand out in the experience with the customer, if they don't drive by and see your crew or your business or whatever and it doesn't stand out, nobody's going to remember your name when they need whatever service you're offering. So to me, this is one of the key things. And there's different ways to do it, from marketing to the equipment you use to your online presence. There's all these different facets that come into play for this specific topic. Um, and earlier, Travis, we were talking a little bit about marketing before we jumped on this recording. And one of the things we talked about a little bit was your unique selling proposition. And to me, that is, you need to define in a nutshell who your business is and what makes you unique. And from there, I think you build out your marketing strategy, at least for me. But you have to start with that core. Um, with the Better Contractor, we started doing some more video stuff lately. What originally got me into video was, and we created this video for our Lantern Corp website, was basically this brand story and being able to tell the story of you. So, what is your business? Who are you? Who are the owners? What is it that makes you different from the other 99%? But the ability to tell that compelling story, I think, is so key in business and in marketing.
You're either managing it or it's managing you. And in this day, and it can be negative or positive. And there used to be an old adage of uh, no publicity is bad publicity. I think that's
I think
not
that's
correct
outdated
anymore.
nowadays.
Completely bad publicity. uh, and I mean, with what you're saying with equipment, and it's subconscious versus conscious, maybe. So the subtle things such as your equipment, the way your crews handle themselves, the way they function, and the way they present themselves, and the way they look, and if your equipment's clean, and if it's branded appropriate, like subtle things like that. That I mean, obviously, if you've got your name on the side of the truck, that's deliberate branding. But the maybe less obvious ones of the way your crew presents itself. Is it uniform? Is it professional? Is it crisp? How are they interacting with the public? Even when they're pumping gas, and they're not necessarily out on the job site, how are they conducted? I mean, they're representing you and your company, but just the little things can gain business or take business away from you, or keep them from ever engaging you, and them telling their neighbors never to, if you ever see this crew or this company, yeah, I had a bad experience with them at the gas pump. They're rude. They cut me off. Did whatever. It's all marketing. It's all branding. It's not what you think necessarily. Um, as the core things that you would do, but it's all part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and I think if you're a young business owner just starting out, a lot of times it may just be you doing the work. So some of this stuff sometimes does not happen like it needs to. And if you kind of break down making your business stand out, and you look at marketing as number one, you look at team and culture as number two, and then equipment and service as number three. Those are kind of the three key points I feel. And obviously, Travis, you were talking about a little bit of the appearance. So look at equipment. Arrow Valley Tucker, who we've had on the podcast before, a mentee of mine. We shoot some video stuff for him, and I noticed about a year or two ago he started talking to me about wrapping his equipment or wrapping his trucks and his trailers, and really branding everything and upgrading to some newer equipment. And we went last week and actually shot on one of his job sites. And I remember when we rolled up, what stood out immediately was that there was two brand new trucks, a brand new trailer, all fully wrapped, and huge difference then versus several years ago when I remember our first time I went to one of his job sites. But that is the power of having the newer equipment. It is the power of having it wrapped. It all takes a lot of money. But he was working in a nice residential neighborhood. Truck is parked on the side of the road, doing a huge retaining wall and staircase system down to a lake is what they were working on that day. And I look at that and my immediate thought was, wow, I will remember that company name. But then I thought, okay, you've been parked at this house for a month. Every single homeowner up and down that lake has now knows the name of your business real well. You've got a reputation that you've built that's positive because of the equipment, that's sitting there that looks professional. And then when the job is done, and it's almost done, the job looks completely stellar. So he will sell more clients in that neighborhood eventually because they're all going to need that work. Go ahead, Travis.
And what's the counter to that? So I've seen a lot of trailers, the open air trailers, and I get there's different business objectives and price points and things that might drive the selection of one or the other. But the open air trailers where all your equipment's just thrown in the back there, I want to say the majority of the time they're not necessarily cleaning that equipment up, and it's just spotless. And when they're done with the job, and nor maybe would they, even if they wanted to, just for the time and effort that it would take. So it's all going to get messed up the next day. But versus an enclosed trailer with a wrap on it and branding, but we're trying to leave a lasting impression that's a positive one. And so it's not that you get one chance, maybe you do, to make the first impression, but we're all trying to be memorable, and we're all trying to stand out, and you have that opportunity, and it's truly an investment, and especially if you're monitoring the metrics on the backside. And I think we talked a little bit of this on the marketing topic on one of the other podcasts of a lot of times it can get relegated into a nice to have in that it's our slush fund if we're setting money aside for marketing. It's our slush fund that it's nice to have marketing or put money into marketing, but in reality, it's not putting money on the table. It's not putting food on the table directly, and so it's easy to take that away. But I think for the most people who and it might be if you're doing substandard marketing, if you're doing things and it's not really having an impact, it probably is throwing money away. And maybe that's what needs to be addressed. But ultimately, you're trying to stand out. There's other unless you're super unique and it's a niche market and everybody's vying for your services and you're the only one in that market, you're competing with somebody. You're competing with probably several people. And how do you stand out if you haven't had the opportunity to contact them? It's going to be in your marketing, and it's going to be in how you present yourself, and uh, and and being deliberate about it. If you're just kind of watered down or run of the mill, or you haven't really shown the value differentiation as far as what they're getting that's different, or why would they choose to go with you? If you're more expensive uh, than the competition. Well, why is that? So that you don't get beat on price all the time, and that you can actually pay your crews. So there's a company that we use that's for our house that's a franchise, and they're more expensive than easily say more than half, maybe 75% of them out there, but I pay it because I want professional. I want it done right. I want to know that they have higher standards. They have a wrapped trailer. They have a great looking presence. They always do a great job, and that's actually promoted them within the community as well by them being out here and doing a great job, and their work stands for them. But you have to be memorable and put the money and put the effort into doing things right so that you're memorable in a unique
Yeah.
and positive way.
Yeah, that makes me think of two different companies. So the first one will be in the good sense. So one of the largest lawn care landscape companies locally, and I won't name drop, but they've been around probably for 20 years, if I had to guess, maybe 25. But I've remembered their vehicles for years. And the reason being is every single thing they own is like a burgundy color. So trailers, even the not enclosed, like the flat trailers, the trucks, lawnmowers, their outfits. Like I saw a crew working today, they were doing a landscape bed by the entrance to a subdivision. White button-up shirts, like the burgundy style, like it's everywhere. And I've never seen one of their trucks dirty. I've never seen a bad job site. Um, and so there's somebody that comes to mind that like, and they're the largest in the region. So they are a good example of executing on all those fronts, executing on quality and safety, executing on the product, giving a good service, and then also we're the largest in the business now. I think of another one who does an insanely good job at marketing. This is in the HVAC industry. But if you jump on a local forum or something like that here locally, I've never seen such hatred for a company online ever. And I actually didn't know some of your reviews could go to that low of a star. Most companies have at least a 4, even if you kind of aren't that great. Theirs is low. And
How low of a star are we talking?
one time when I looked, it's like a 1 or 2. I've never really seen that. Oh yeah, but you should
Woo!
see the hatred on some of the forums. But the point is, they're doing something wrong. They got the marketing down right because they're memorable, but the customer service is off big time somewhere. So I look at some of these companies where maybe they do the marketing really, really well, but when the crew shows up, it's not that great. Or there's not a consistency. Maybe crew A is good, but crew B and C were okay. Crew D was terrible, and crew E is awesome. So you see some of that as well, where there's just not that consistency amongst the crews. And I think that goes back to training. It goes back to onboarding. So when you think stand out, it can't just be a visual thing. It can't just be an appearance thing. It also has to be when we show up to your job or when our management staff visits you or sees you or you interact with them on a billing question. All of those different areas are all top notch.
It's marketing. Every touch point that you have is marketing. It's branding. It's every interaction. Um, but that brings up another point: is the reviews. That's also marketing as well. You say, so what can you do about that? One is you could correct bad behavior or whatever's leading to, and then sometimes you can get where maybe there's trolls or somebody who a former employee that is on there, but that's also you need to take control of that. You need to get out there and respond back to those questions. Try and make it right. If it's a figure out what's going on and get a presence on there. I know that I've seen this industry and others, and it's always a testament or it tells me a little bit about the company when you see reviews out there, good and bad, and you see somebody from the company out there
Mm-hmm.
responding to it. Hey, I'm really and it's not just cut and paste form factor of like it's the same response. Really glad you had a great experience. Sorry you didn't have a great experience. Well, that you might as well not do anything because it's not very genuine. But for those that are taking the time, it is gonna. I mean, that's gonna cost you. It's gonna cost you somebody's time, which is gonna cost you payroll or maybe it's you. But that's part of your marketing. That is part of what. That's a unique way of establishing yourself, your brand, what you represent. Are you honest? Are you genuine? Do you want to make things right? That is a unique branding position for you to go out there and
Oh
address
yeah.
reviews. Try and get good reviews, solicit good reviews. If there's bad ones out there, go try and make it right. And it's going to be public when you respond, and people will see that. And when they see the bad reviews and you out there trying to make things right or understand or addressing that in a professional manner, that speaks a lot about you, and that's what they can. They're it's making an inference that you're going to provide that type of
Yeah.
service to them. And that if they're unhappy about something, you're going to try and make it right, and that's a value statement. It's a character statement about you.
Yeah. No, I like that. And some of the companies, especially in the lawn care business, and I forget what software it is. Man, I'm drawing a blank. But anyway, it does a very good job of soliciting and reminding the customers, hey, give us a Google review. Give us a Google review. I think it stops after so many attempts, which can be annoying. I struggle with that a little bit, but at the same time, I know some companies will give a little bit of a reward. Like if you do this, hey,
There you go. So that's what I was going to get is, so how many of those have you actually responded back to?
only people that I know them personally or they completely killed it so well that I'm like, I owe you. You've done so outstanding. I feel like I need to actually do this for you. So it's either someone I know or you really did that great.
Mine probably fall in the same area. In that majority, probably 90%, I just ignore. And especially if this will only take 5 or 10 minutes. I'm not going to sit on here for
Yeah.
10 minutes and fill out like random questions. And then, there is a bit of an art to for the reviews. If you're going to ask for reviews, make it simple, make it easy. Like there was one, and sometimes, yeah, some sort of incentive will get me to do it, and other people. But if it's $5, enter a drawing or something,
Yeah.
I don't know, unless it's something major or something that I'm interested in. So that's almost cheesy too. But if you're gonna go out there and solicit reviews, make it easy for them to
Oh, yeah.
participate in. So there was one. It was literally like yesterday, or the day before. It was, this will be 5 or 10 minutes, and it was asking crazy questions that I get why it would be nice for them to know this, because it's intrusive about my family, how many people live in my household, what are the break. They're like, I'm sure that would be great and useful data for you, but
Yeah.
I don't know why you need all of this, and I don't feel comfortable. So yeah,
Yeah.
make it easy and make it relevant. Find the data points that are really important to you, and make it easy for them to
Yeah.
provide the review. Otherwise, you're going to get the fringes. Most of the reviews
Oh,
are
they're the
fringes
extreme
in that
matter.
it's
Yeah.
not, and it's going to overwhelmingly skew towards negative because more people will do more to warn other people or vent off frustration to write a review about negativity or things that didn't go right than those who things went really well. And so understand that that's what's going to be representative on you is the fringes. And majority of the time, if it's just left unattended, it's going to trend towards negative unless you knock it out of the park and
Yeah.
crush it every time. But that takes
Oh, yeah.
managing it.
Definitely. One thing earlier I was thinking about when you were talking was making, from a marketing standpoint, is one of the things we're doing a little bit with TBC on the video shooting, highlighting your after products. I'm surprised how many companies either have like those bought-in images, which you can always tell when they are on their website. I'm like, that looks terrible, number one. But number two, if you're doing like a bigger landscape or bigger tree jobs, or you have some cool equipment, gosh, make sure you were putting that on your website or putting that on social. Because what you're doing is establishing that you have that ability. And people are also looking at your work and saying, hey, that's actually more complex than what I was going to have done. And that looks amazing. So they can definitely do what I'm doing. Or if you've got some huge projects, which is some of the stuff we're getting ready to shoot, highlight that so people know, hey, that great big project that most people cannot do or we don't trust to do, that company there has done it. So make sure you guys are taking the time to go out there and actually take some good quality photo video of those type of sites so you can build that trust online, on social, on your website, stuff like that.
I love seeing the before and
Mm-hmm.
after stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Really helping you. So I don't. Maybe the OCD part, you love seeing the closure in whatever was wrong. But I like seeing. So there's a trend too. There's a couple guys that go around on YouTube for like lawn care, and they'll go find a property that's just overgrown and offer to do it for free. And those are always just addictive to
Yeah.
watch too, because you want to see again closure. It's the OCD. You see like half done lawn or and you get sucked in. That unique
Yeah.
marketing for
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
too.
When you were talking earlier too, it made me think of on the reviews, the customer service. So I feel like a lot of times the reviews, most likely something happened. There's some people who are just dramatic and you're not going to make them happy. But a lot of people, it comes down to there was an issue. They called, texted, attempted to contact. Someone blew them off a little bit or did not handle it quite well enough to diffuse it. And then it went to a post because they didn't feel it was dealt with. That goes back to the customer service and having a good customer service team, people who will, you know, who can handle that without getting emotional in their response back. People who can walk through it will take the time to actually gather facts. And I'm not saying when you have, because we've had these before, not necessarily with LanderCorp, but another business that I own, where is complete bullcrap, the review. It's just someone that's just, anyway. I don't give into those though. And I'm not saying to do that. Look for the facts and make your decision based upon that. But if the customer is right, then you owe it to them to make it right to them. So do that. Make sure they feel heard.
And I've seen on some of those where they seem really emotional, and it's probably not completely factual, but the owner or somebody will respond back that, hey, I'm really sorry that happened. Please give me a call. Please email me. I'm sending you my contact information. I'd like to learn more about, but like genuinely seek first to
Yeah.
understand, and then handle it
Yeah.
professionally. Yeah, if it's just outlandish, yeah, there's not much you can do about it. But if take it for face value, seek first to understand, take it for face value. If it truly is a potential customer or maybe a repeat customer that had something wrong, you kind of do need
Oh,
to
yeah.
fix it, and you should probably go find out fact from fiction
Yeah.
what's going on.
You should take a chance, Travis, and the other company we own that's not in this industry at all. You should read some of the bogus review responses I've written. You'll like them.
Okay.
I
So I remember years ago
I have
some of this
I have
stuff,
fun. I have fun with them.
but I knew what was going on behind it. See, here you go, unique
Believe
marketing.
it or not, this is no joke. We've actually had clients come in because they liked that I stood up. Because for the most part, with those reviews, most people know it's bogus when they read it, or as someone that's overly dramatic, they know it when they read it, so they're not taking it at that much value anyway. But then they loved the response and how I stood up to it. So anyway, one thing we've done at LanderCorp, and I think when you think about the unique selling proposition, so two of the things for us was safety. So our industry is in oil and gas. We do tree work, but we're in oil and gas. So safety was everything, and that's how we built the company. That's who we are. That's how we're known. The other is customer service. Like our management staff to field staff ratio, we have a lot of management staff. Some people would say, hey, you should cut them, blah, blah, blah. But that's not who we are. So part of our deal is we're not going to be your lowest bid, and we don't really want to be because that's not who I want to be as a contractor. I want to deliver you an experience in contracting that you're not used to. And a whole lot of doing that in our industry is having the office staff to be able to do what we call value added services. So like we use so much more technology, we record so much more data, we do so much more than just what we're hired to do. And the customers that use us are those who want that. Because fact is, most of our customers will never make it to a job site. They'll never see the work we do. They're paying bills from an office in usually another state. So when they hire us, they can go in, we give them a login, they can view so much data and mapping and everything else from our job sites. But that all takes customer service and time back in the office. And then we have good people running each account that are likable, that do a good job, that follow through, that get back with you. That is who or what we are known for. And that's what we market. You know, are we good at other stuff too? Yeah. There's some stuff we got to improve upon as well. But those are our main value propositions, and that's what we push. But anyway, the customer service is one that's big to me, because even when I hire people like for our lawn at our house or stuff like that, man, I will get pissed off faster than anything if your customer service response time, if you don't do what you say you're going to do, if you don't follow through and do a quality job, that stuff grinds on me more than anything, because I don't have the time for it. I don't have the time. You know, we actually, again, won't name names, lawn care company we had this year, I've never seen such terrible quality of work. Like literally weed trimmed down desirable plants and left grass completely untrimmed, like logical places you would trim grass, like around a tree, around a plant, around a landscape bed. Edge left all of it, left skips in between, and we trimmed down flowers that were clearly desired flowers. I'm like my mind's blown. And then
What was the response?
they came out, the owner came out, looked at it, basically apologized, acknowledged several things. Crew comes back out a week or two later, does the same thing again. I'm like,
New crew, high turnover.
I think high turnover because I recognize none of them from last year. But I think it's a passion deal. Like watching, because my office, my home office, you can see the entire yard. I think it's a passion deal. You know, the owners seem fine. They have the marketing down. They have a lot of the stuff down. But when the crew showed up, it just wasn't it. And I get that. Like we've had some experiences where some crews are better than others, and you work through that. So I was trying to be understanding, but when it kept happening, I'm like, man, I did a better job mowing lawn when I was 12. Like,
Hey, but I realize we cut down these flowers. But I'll give you 25% off of flower installation program that we have.
man, at least try to sell me a new flower.
I was like that would be a shady way of doing business, but
It would be a shady way of doing business, but at least it seemed like there was a purpose behind it. You know what I mean? It drives me nuts. Anyway, I think that leads to their third point here, which is company culture, training, and branding of employer. You know that so, which we've talked about in a lot of podcasts, but we talk about it a lot because it's actually that important. Because you can do the marketing, you can have nice equipment, you can have an awesome management staff, but if your people in the field don't deliver, it undoes all of that really, really quickly.
and we've got so you know where we live. We live on a corner. It's highly visible. People drive past it. We've got a lot of trees in our backyard, kind of the evergreens, and so it's not a fun one. You can't get the mower right up underneath. So you have to do some edging around the trees, and so we've had a couple of times where the crews they just I give the benefit of the doubt the first time, like, hey, I mean, I get it. They could have overlooked. The second time, it just looks like, man, they was running out of time, and it was a time saver to not do those. It ended up getting corrected, but for the time period that we had 2 weeks worth or a week and a half worth because it rained a few times in there and they couldn't address it for a week. So now you got 3 weeks worth of like weeds growing up pretty significantly, 3 feet tall now around it, and they see the neighbors and everybody see your truck out there branded represent and I mean it's marketing and not necessarily in a positive way. Back to what we were talking about before.
Well, and that's the thing. The company I'm talking about with us, we live at the end of a residential area, at the end of the cul-de-sac, and I'll put it this way: none of my neighbors use them for some reason. I don't know why.
So here's another marketing thing, like maybe unique is cross industry deals and partnerships. Cross pollination essentially. So come across so a lot of communities like ours, you have the developer, you have the builders, you have the property management. So there's deals that you can make where property management companies and developers and things, and sometimes they'll use the larger accounts, but if you can do a value proposition, you can make deals to where they're helping promote you. So looking, so we're just thinking just unique marketing avenues of assuming you got everything else right and correct, or you got customer service, good branding, whatever. Look for those unique opportunities to make partnerships where they'll help promote you in unique ways as
Oh
well.
yeah, and there's several too. Like I've seen several of the people I mentor, like locally and just know locally, who one may be in a tree business, one may be in lawn care, one may be in landscape, you know, and the one may have done lawn care before, but now he's focusing on landscape. So he gives his lawn care business up to
Mhm.
someone else and feeds that business there and feeds this business here. Those relationships are so important too, you know, and having those contacts, you know, but making sure when you give that you're giving someone who's actually worthy of your, you know, saying, hey, this is my dude that I use. You should try them.
That would be another form of market. One, you're marketing to the person who's also going to give you business or recommend you. But then it's also the referral. So that's the holy grail of marketing is to get a word of mouth referral. So it's basically you're double dipping in that. Is if you can get somebody who's in an adjacent business to go refer you to a client that they're already working on, one, you have to have marketed yourself well, represented yourself well. Your crews have to be professional. You have to be worthy of them referring you, because if you burn them, they're not going to do it again. But then you're also getting that holy grail of it's a mouth to mouth referral,
Yeah,
which is really tough to get. What you're always looking, but a
yeah,
unique marketing tool. But it gets back to
it does.
you got to have value.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing too, when you kind of talk about word of mouth, is also the employee stuff too. Like over the years, we've had ebbs and flows, obviously, with employee stuff, but there's been times where, you know, you get a lot of referrals from employees too. Like, hey, I've enjoyed working here, or hey, I used to work here and I like it here, or this line of work is cool. And they bring people on. And I think with the employee stuff, we've talked so much about culture on here, which is hugely important. It is complex because it involves the hiring process, it involves onboarding, but it's basically, in a nutshell, if you had to summarize it, it's making people feel valued, making them feel wanted, making them feel like they're at a place that there's advancement, that they're at a place that upper management cares about them, and that they're learning. If you hire the right people, they actually will want some training and development because they will want to keep growing in that position. They don't want to necessarily just be a laborer their entire life necessarily. Some people are fine with that and they like it, but most people want to progress on up that ladder or get better at whatever skill it is they're doing. So having that training program, that development, some sort of HR system to where you're giving raises routinely or in evaluating and coaching them. Most people think, when you do an employee review, that it's just simply you're telling them how they suck. That's not really what you should be doing. You should be actually telling them, here's what you're doing well, here's what you're not doing that great, here's your goals that you tell me you have, here's what you need to do to get there. You need to fix this. You need to continue to advance on these things that you're already good at. All of that goes into your culture of your employees. Do we do it perfectly? We do not. Do we try? We absolutely try. But it has to be decent pay, and again, to do the decent pay though, you've got to charge more for your service. You can charge more for your service if you bring on a good quality product. So it's all so related and intricate as well. But anyway, but you got to pay well. You've got to treat them well. You've got to train them. You got to onboard correctly. And if you get that bad apple, there's that one saying, slow to hire, quick to fire. For the most part, when you have that bad apple that's the cancer inside of a crew or organization. The whole other aspect of it is to remove that when it happens. So,
And the training thing that sometimes gets overlooked. So talking about areas that maybe get relegated as nice to haves, training, marketing, but not understanding how impactful they can be if they're done right, how it feeds into all other things of your business. But in the training aspect of thinking in terms of a lot of times when we think of training, we'll think industry specific or skill set training specific in that chainsaw safety, fuel management, storage, equipment. But there's in the learning industry, it's typically segmented into what people refer to as hard skills and soft skills. So soft skills being maybe those less tangible ones, but it's personality traits, people management, negotiation skills, effective communicating, tough conversations, uh, all of those things that will permeate everything. How the team dynamics are working internally, how they're communicating up and down the leaders channels across to their teams, how they're communicating with customers, how confident do they have the skills to de-escalate a conversation and give feedback appropriately back to, like, all of those things. They'll use probably just as much, if not more, than the individual skills of operating the equipment or on the job site. So discount those, but all of those, and those are skills that they can take into every aspect of their life as well. So
Yeah.
looking at holistic training or building the people holistically, um, it can go a long way for that company culture, but then also impacting in a positive direction your crews, your staff, how they interact as a part of your business, which all then feeds back into the marketing and brand.
It does. And I don't know why it seems like some of these contractor industries, not all, but a lot of them, especially smaller companies, that is something that's overlooked is the training. Obviously, we're TBC, better contractor. So obviously we value training as part of who we are. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is that number one, it's safety. Then that does matter. All of you guys out there paying workers' compensation insurance, or if you ever do a state, federal, local bid, you will understand exactly real quickly how important that safety rating is. If your work comp costs go up $5 per hundred of labor costs, you'll feel it real quick. And all of a sudden, training like this is really, really cheap. So it's safety, which also shows you care about your employees. It is the development portion. Employees want to know, what do you expect from me in this job site? How can I move up this ladder? Can I do this training to get a 50-cent raise? Can I do this one to get a $3 raise? Whatever that is for your company. It gives them a path of upward mobility. And three, we talked about earlier, different crews showing up at the job site. Training gives you uniformity amongst crews. So if crew A shows up or C shows up, if you've done your training and onboarding correctly, it should look the same. It's just a different face. The quality of work should be the same. The procedures, the practices, everything should really be pretty similar if you've done the training and onboarding correctly. And I think that's something a lot of people overlook, thinking, oh, this is a simple industry. You know how to run a zero turn, right, Travis? Yeah. It still needs to be done in a uniform way, no matter what crew you got showing up.
What in our life stands still? Like nature doesn't allow anything to stand still. It's always progressing, regressing, dying, getting more beautiful. You're understanding the world around you in a positive manner that's helping improve the things around you, or you're not. And so that's every skill, that's the culture, that's the brand, that's the marketing. It nothing just sits still.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that constant evolution, innovation, refreshing, looking at everything that ties into the training, the skill sets amongst your crews. You might have hired them, and unless they've got that drive that they're constantly doing self improvement, which some people do. Others, it's inertia, and it's probably regressing, and so they might have had amazing skills or assets when they got hired, and then it's just been kind of naturally just morphing, but maybe not in the direction that's positive or that what you would want to. So constantly looking for ways to offer opportunities for people to improve in manners that would improve themselves, the business, in the direction that you would want them to, in a positive direction. So
Yeah.
the training component being super important.
Oh, yeah. And really, all the stuff we've talked about applies to all businesses. You know, the marketing strategies, your online presence, your visual identity, the storytelling, your website, all of that, the culture, your team and culture, that matters no matter what business you're in. Equipment, that can vary by business, obviously, but does your company deliver quality? Does your company deliver customer service? All of those things are for any business that exists. But looks like we're about 40 minutes in, Travis. Just want to see, do you have any final thoughts to kind of wrap things up?
Yeah, I think we're good on this one.
Cool. Guys, and I'm assuming if you're listening to this podcast, you're trying to improve your business, you're trying to grow it, you're trying to do it. All of this, you absolutely have to be doing these things. You have to stand out from your competition. If you're in a humongous city, I don't know, it depends on where you live, size of the city you're in, likely, depending on what business you're in, you have hundreds of competitors locally. You have to stand out if you're going to be the larger one in that pool. I think of the companies here that are the larger ones that I would hire to do mine. They're doing all of this stuff to some degree. Maybe not at 100%. They're all trying to get to 100%, but they are executing on these things we've talked about today. And if you're serious about it, you'll do it too. So if you like the podcast, please share it. If you don't have to listen. We'll catch you next time.